No One Likes Us Clothing is the clothing range designed by Millwall fans for Millwall fans. Caps, t-shirts, polos, they've got it all. Visit noonelikesus.co.uk for the full range. Or if you're in Bermondsey on a match day, why not have a pint in the Blue Anchor pub and pick up a Nolu polo shirt, Nolu clothing at www.noonelikesus.co.uk.
Hi, it's Mr. Bye for Now from Millwall Football Club, and you're listening to the world famous Achtung Millwall.
Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to another Friday Something for the Weekend show with myself, Nick Hart, and my co-compatriot, Mr. Neil Fissler. Welcome to the show, Neil.
Hello, Nick. How you going, mate? Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening, whatever time you're listening to this.
I'm good, actually. My initial notes, I was a bit downbeat for this show, listeners. It's actually been a fairly quiet week at the Den after that deflating loss last week at Sheffield at Bramall Lane. But two stories have popped up this morning that have caught my eye, caught your eye, and I'm guessing the listeners' eyes. Best story of all is Richard Corley, the South London Press, pretty reliable source, Neil. Richard, he seems to be very close to the club, but he's saying that Danny McNamara is close to signing a new long-term contract set to be finalised in the coming days. That's one of the best stories I think I've seen in a little while now, because that's been hanging over the club like a bit of a bad smell, really, the whole Danny situation.
Yeah, I know that, in fact, it's almost certain that the club have tipped him off. Billy's tipped him the wink and said you can put this out. Mate, it's fantastic news because everything had gone so well all summer, including the first game of the season. Then, in the space of 3 days, it was the defeat at Cambridge. Whether or not you're worried about a Carabao Cup defeat, I was more worried that you couldn't watch it on iFollow. And then there was that awful first half last week, and you just thought, oh yeah, Millwall's back. With injury, but this is just something that's lifted. It will definitely lift everybody, and there's no coincidence that it's come the day before a home game, I don't think.
Oh, you cynic, Fissler, you cynic. No, it's great news. It's great news. I mean,
buzz tomorrow. It will generate a buzz, especially if they announce this afternoon.
Yep.
Or even in the morning that the deal's been agreed, because he is a homegrown player.
He's one of our own. He's one of our own. We love Danny down at the Den, don't we?
But he is a talent. He's not the end product, but he's a very, very good, promising young player. One that we've produced, and just one that you wanted to see. I think, to a certain extent, his hand has probably been forced by QPR. I think they're interested in signing a guy called Ethan Laird from Manchester United, right, on loan. So they've probably lost interest in him to a certain extent, while they didn't try a third or fourth Mickey Mouse offer.
Well, I suppose, as you say, it forces Danny's hand. I mean, it's a business, listeners, isn't it? As well as being an emotional transaction, it's a business for Danny. He's got to look after himself. I think it's great news. I mean, I wasn't bothered about the Carabao Cup now. I mean, looking at other results, I had half an eye on the telly the other night. I think it was Hull City getting beat at Bradford. I think it was a 2-1 loss there. Not a great game, but from their point of view, that's a poor result. Thinking of the kind of the meltdown that would happen if we'd got beaten on telly in similar circumstances. But I think it's losing in the Carabao Cup didn't bother me. I think it was just that first half display last week at Sheffield where we seemed to be deflated, and that early season buzz that you've touched on already had gone. And certainly, if Danny's going to be signing, we don't have to spend too much time on the slow motion videos Millwall get the news out officially and let the crowd do the buzz tomorrow, because I think that's great news for the club generally in the support.
Yeah, no, it is. It was just what we needed really after last week, wasn't it? I know that seems a bit silly 2 games in, but last week was a reality check, wasn't it? And
it was if you don't bring your A game and you don't bring drive and determination to the table, because we didn't last week at Bramall Lane, and we got punished for it. We got pushed around.
Exactly that, Nick. I think it will serve as a timely reminder to players in the dressing room that, look, if you let your standards drop in this division,
you get hurt. Yeah.
This is what happens. Stoke let their standards drop against us and got absolutely thumped.
Yeah.
We dropped our standards against Sheffield United and got hammered in that first half. We were better in the second half, but again, there just wasn't enough, was there? There was not enough creativity. Yes, we were in the game. Yes, we had a lot more of the ball, but there wasn't much in the way of clear-cut chances, were there?
Nothing in front of goal, which is where we want the action, which brings me nicely onto the other upbeat story. I think it's an upbeat story. I know there's opinions have varied online over this. Richard Corley again saying Millwall are also close to finalising a deal for the Union Berlin striker Andreas Vogelsammer. There's been a lot of comment, Neil, on his Bundesliga low scoring record. I think 13 appearances and just 2 goals in the Bundesliga. I think he's made his career in the second division, Bundesliga 2 in Germany, and not too bad a record. I mean, 13 goals in the last couple of seasons, I think I saw, for Arminia Bielefeld out there. So that's not bad at a similar level to ours. So I'm not as downbeat about it as I hear the members of the jury are out there on the nets. I mean, how do you see this signing?
Funnily enough, when it was first rumoured, I think Tuesday or Wednesday, I did what I normally don't do, and that's to go and look at German websites using Google Translate. It seems if they need to cut their squad, they pretty much would like him to stay. Couldn't get in the squad for the first game of the season, I think, last weekend.
Yeah.
He seems to fit everything that Rowett has been saying that he wanted in a striker. He's very technical, I think.
Okay.
So he's got a great physique. Looking at his Instagram pictures.
Well, I'm haunted by the ghost of Uwe Fuchs. There was a male model we had from Austria, not Australia, Austria. Recently, I can't. His name's gone from my head. The Hoff, Hoffmeyer, Hoffmeister.
Yeah, Stefan
Hoffmeyer. Well, yeah, that's him. Who was also good on the male modelling front, but less good in the 6-yard box where we want him. I'm just looking at his Andreas Vogelsammer. I'm going to have great fun saying that name, aren't I, in the commentary. Someone's already fiddled with his Wikipedia page, and I don't know if you've seen it. There's a whole load of computer code, and at the bottom of it, it's got he comes from Germany. He plays in Bermondsey. Vogelsammer. Woo. Comes from Germany and he plays in Bermondsey. I think that's imagination for you already.
So would he be the first people to dub him the
Vogel? The Vog?
Yeah, with the Bermondsey Beckenbauer.
Emperor Andreas. So yeah, just looking. I mean, okay, 2 goals this in 2021 in the Bundesliga for Union Berlin. I think we're promoted from the second flight out there. But 2019-20, this was with Arminia Bielefeld, 12 goals, 13 goals. So he's, it's not like he doesn't know where the back of the net is, and that's the second tier in Germany. I'm hopeful. I'm not going to join in this online kind of sheep mentality that because he's not scored much in the top flight that he's not going to do it for us. I'll probably stand to be corrected, and I'll have to offer my head on a pole over the gates of the car park at some point if he turns into a duff one. But I'm hopeful at this stage, you know.
Yeah, let's be honest. We're probably having to pay a little bit of money for him.
Yep.
So we haven't just woken up one morning. Olga was fired up.
Football manager.
FIFA 22 or something, and suddenly seen this player and thinks, oh yeah, no, well he'll look good. Yeah, well that's fine. Yeah, they've obviously done their homework. I think I saw Gary Rowett saying that he'd seen him play a few times, so they've obviously, they are going to do the homework. So you've just got to trust the manager on this one. I'm not going to join. Yeah, well, like you, I'm not going to join in the chorus of people that want to knock the club at every opportunity.
No, and the other thing to say, listeners out there, for those that are disappointed, Vogel's done, Lewandowski's unavailable for us, Neil. So we've got to look where we've got to look, haven't we? Yeah,
no. Well, I suppose if Barcelona can't register him this weekend, Lewandowski might fancy a spell in Bermondsey. But there's just an element of, but let's be honest about it. If he had scored 20 goals in the Bundesliga last season, he wouldn't be playing for Millwall.
No, he wouldn't. No, he'd be at the top table, not at the. He'd be at the Ivy, not at the Curry Den, wouldn't he? There we are.
So, let's give the guy a chance. Yeah,
absolutely.
The chances are none of us have really seen him play.
No, unless if there are any students of Bundesliga 2 out there, do get in touch, because I'm not. I will be up front. I believe there is a podcast about it, a real niche podcast, even more niche than Achtung Millwall. But no, I mean, none of us have seen him play, Neil. You're spot on. He's being signed as probably one of the better players that we can go to, and he's performed at a level that's at least on a par with the Championship in Germany. So he's
a chance. Yeah, well, that's at least watch him play for 5 minutes before we
slaughter him. That's not the mill wine, though.
It just seems mad that all of a sudden that we're trying to sign players. Okay, it's taking in an order and a given amount of time. Somebody on Hoff said, well, we've been looking all summer. But sometimes these players don't become available. He didn't get into Union Berlin's side last weekend, so suddenly he's become available. There was Shane Lavery, is it, at Blackpool? I
was just going to mention that story. This was I think actually Rowett confirmed interest in Lavery for Blackpool, but then he played in their Caribou Cup tie midweek, so that seems to eliminate him from Millwall's plans. But I think, I mean, the football market is a very not like a normal market, is it? It seems to come to life as the deadline narrows, as options become limited and players start to take contracts that, as they're staring down the barrel of the last few days of the transfer window. I mean, you can say we've had all summertime, but there's a practical reality in there, Neil, that it just seems to work this way, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it can be that, I think in the case of Lavery, I think they've got 1 or 2 injuries now, so
they need him suddenly, maybe, rather than being superfluous to their plans.
Yes, so, well, as you quite rightly point out, but if you've got a big squad, all of a sudden, towards the end of the window, you're going to look to trim that squad. But if that squad shrinks itself through injuries or suspensions or whatever, you're more than likely going to want to keep hold of your players. And I think, it's another wonderful journalistic expression, in advanced talks. Yeah.
What does that mean? Have they got a piece of paper with advanced talk written on it?
Absolutely. Yeah, with a mother mind, right, advanced talk. I don't know, just some.
It gives it the smack of international men of mystery, doesn't it? There are talks, and then there are advanced talks, and there's a contract at the end of it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, to me, advanced talks is your initial interest. Yeah.
Yep.
Then you agree the fee. Then advanced talks. Yeah. But the way that football works is the agent will say, "Oh yeah, so and so's available. This is what he's going to cost you." So really, advanced talks is that you go into the players' club
with some money on the table. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, but 9 times out of 10, a lot of these deals are agreed well in advance. Yeah, but this guy from Union Berlin, I can't even pronounce. Yeah, but I'm going to go with the Bermondsey Beckenbauer.
Vogelsammer.
The agent would have come to Millwall and they would have said, "Look, I've got this player, the Bermondsey Beckenbauer. This is what he's going to cost you. Are you interested?" And obviously Millwall say yes, and then the agent and Millwall then attempt to
make it happen. Yeah.
So advanced talks is just a load of shite, really, isn't it? Yeah. But then you've got to get him over for a medical. You've got to apply for a visa now, I think, because he comes from.
Yeah, you're coming across the Brexit line, aren't you? So yeah,
a lot of elements now that to make the deal happen. So that's when I guess you're in advanced talks.
Advanced talks for me, listeners, is probably where you're in the taxi going home with a young lady after a good night out. The advanced talks are whatever takes place in that taxi, because it can still go badly wrong when you're at the last minute. You can still be kicked out, but you're hoping you're going to cross the threshold of one or other's flat at the other end of it, aren't you?
Mrs. H behind you there.
Move along, dear listeners.
Yeah, by saying he's in advanced talks, it just led to 4 days of worrying.
It might not happen. Or some are worrying it will happen. I don't know out there. But.
People, or by some of our support. And then when it doesn't happen, all of a sudden it's another chance to knock the club, which I'm getting a bit tiresome of, I must admit. I know I've knocked them in the past, but I think
where it's deserved. I mean, you and me had a little conversation in the last week's show, about summer conditions around the stadium, where specifically where there's bird shit and machinery, your TV's not working, people having seats removed, all this kind of stuff. Now that to me it's intended to be constructive criticism, listeners. I'm never going to just slate Millwall because I get some kind of vicarious buzz out of knocking at the club that I've followed for 50 odd years, but bird shit is bird shit. The seats removed aren't there. You are entitled to talk about that without necessarily knocking the club. But some people do seem to they enjoy the misery side of it, I think, Neil. It's like there's a psychological condition about loving to be miserable. I can't think what the word is. But I'm glad that we've had these 2 stories, because it really also has had the added effect of saving this podcast from being a pretty dull affair, listeners, because my best story I had on my listing, it was the injury update. That was as good as I'd come up with for talking points. So I think we've got some good news at least to kick off this week's edition. Murray Wallace apparently has had a knock in training. He may be a doubt for Saturday. I mean, these things happen, I suppose, but we do seem to have attracted a lot of bad luck at the start of the season with injuries, don't we?
But it does just show that Murray Wallace is human.
It does. A tackle. I can't imagine Murray trains any other way than the way he plays, which is 100%. So he's probably going to tackle strongly and has come away with a knock. It will take a lot, I think, to knock Murray out. He's that kind of player. I mean, I think it's one of the reasons why he was player of the season, and he's become pretty beloved at the Den, hasn't he? Because he just gives you 100%. That's all we ever ask of a player.
Funnily enough, I was watching that All or Nothing on Amazon Prime.
Oh, the Arsenal one? I was going to mention that to you. Yeah.
And they've got a defender, Ben White.
Yeah.
He paid, I think, 50 million to Brighton for.
50 million.
And he's in the Murray Wallace type category. They say how every training session he trains like he's playing in the Champions League. And you can just imagine Murray Wallace being the same kind of player down at Millwall every single training session. Yeah, I'm not suggesting that other players don't train as hard, but you can just imagine with Murray, it's 100% or 100%. Really,
some don't, do they? I mean, I was watching the Arsenal one the other day. We've got a new cat, listeners, and I finished up with sitting with the cat on my lap. And I thought, I've got to watch something because I can't move with this cat sitting on my lap. So I finished up watching the Arsenal All or Nothing. There's only three episodes of it out, and the
3 more yesterday, Nick. So
I'll sit with a cat ledge and watch it. But it flipped over to the Spurs one afterwards. It went from the last edition, and it just naturally followed on with the Spurs. I slightly lost track of what was going on, but there was the famous arrival of host Jose Mourinho at Spurs, where he digs out Dele Alli, who doesn't train very well. And you can see how much it niggles managers when you have players. I think most managers would prefer a team of Ben Whites, Murray Wallaces, or whatever their limitations, but they will give you 100%. And you could see the displeasure in Mourinho's face with Dele Alli, who always struck me as a bit of a surly boy anyway, talented but surly. But you can see I don't know. The managers much prefer to work with players that give you everything in every situation. At least you know where you stand with them, I guess.
Yeah, no, if Jose Mourinho is actually listening to this and he wants 100% trainer, Murray Wallace is £150 million cash up front. And can we have a buyback clause of £1 3 weeks' time, please?
Achtung, Millwall.
One thing that Arteta, in the 3 that they released yesterday, was it really got on his goat. I think he caught COVID and so was away from the club for a week. And some of the players took the piss, I think, and didn't train as hard. And he said there would have been 4 of you that I'd sent away from the training session after 15 minutes. You're kind of thinking, wow.
It's an interesting insight. I mean, there's a whole series of these all or nothings. I mean, listeners probably way ahead of me on it. I've only just picked up on this Arsenal one because I saw it on the side of a bus the other day driving around, and then I had the cat, so I finished up watching it. But it's an interesting thing. It's a modern thing. There's a Juventus version, apparently. There's the Spurs version, and other clubs have done it.
Yeah,
Manchester City, they did it. I mean, the Premier League, I've got to take my hat off to it. It's masterful at its marketing of itself as a product, because these shows, Neil, kind of portray the personalities of the major stars of the league. I mean, whatever you think of certain players or other clubs or whatever, it really does give you how can I put it, a sense of, if not connection, it's like watching a film. You start to follow the characters, you start to slightly live the story with them.
You relate to them, don't you, in a strange sort of way. Sunderland did it, I think. Yeah, did they have 2 or 3 seasons on Netflix?
Yeah, that was a disaster story, though, wasn't it? That was them in relegation mode and finding, fallen giants. Yeah,
and then trying to come back. But it's absolutely fascinating watching. I would love one to be done on Millwall, because
can you imagine that? That was going to be my question when I made this point to myself to mention it. Can you imagine one at Millwall?
Oh, man, love it. Yeah, well, I think you'd have to do one surrounding the whole club, as opposed. They don't tend to stray from the managers or the players or the doctor in these all or nothings. Yeah, but you do go to Edu and that when he's doing transfers. But can you imagine a fly on the wall in Aldo's office when he's manager and decides to sorry, Alex. Yeah, but that was just like
we would pick on you because we love you, basically. I mean,
much turn down Yeah, well, we're talking. Can you imagine the reaction? Holdo's there playing Football Manager.
The thing that struck me, I mean, this Arsenal one, I've only seen the kind of opening bit of the Spurs one, then I had to turn it off. But the Arsenal one is kind of dotted with fan interviews. And the thought occurred to me watching these Arsenal fans, all of whom are kind of like Arsenal fan TV types, you know, as a generic type. Listeners out there, you know what I mean, Arsenal fan TV types. But I thought you'd get some raw opinion. I don't know where you'd go to get the Millwall raw opinion to dot it along as after the 2-0 loss at Sheffield United last week. You'd have you'd have to go into, I don't know, the ancient foresters and say, fucking cunts. Lazy cunts.
Yeah, but it'd be a bit like Dan when he used to set fan TV.
Oh dear!
TV.
These are all in there's some trendy bar in Islington, and they've got two ladies both swigging craft beer pints of something or other, and another guy's got like a hipster style beard, looking like some biblical kind of preacher or something. He's got a beard about a yard long. So they weren't your typical Millwall fans, listeners. It just made me laugh. Try and put a Millwall fly on the wall together. You'd have to, I don't know what you'd do. You'd have to censor half the things that would be said to you, wouldn't you?
But
stay legal.
Yeah, but the uncensored version would be a lot better, wouldn't
it? You'd cross the line of libel, slander, hate speech.
You'd probably end up starting a world war or two. Fucking cunt Putin.
Oh dear. Anyway, this was my big story for the week, listeners. Injury update. We've veered wildly off the subject of something for the weekends. So yeah, Murray Wallace may be a doubt, maybe not. Bradshaw and Fleming. It's too soon for them to be back this weekend, says Gary Rowett. Probably back end of the week next week to see where they are. I don't imagine they'll be making any miracle recoveries to go to Swansea, which I think is next Tuesday night. I think, Neil, isn't it? After the Saturday.
Feels it Wednesday. Then we've got Norwich, I think, live on
the Friday night. Yeah,
Sports next Friday night, haven't we?
That's so yeah. Anyway, the upshot is that they're both recovering well and quicker than one might have expected. Mason Bennett's been talking injuries. There's a story in the news at Den, Neil. You can tell it's been a bit of a quiet week. There's a lot of filler articles where you're talking to players about their hopes for the season. You know, there's not been an awful lot of meat for a journalist to chew on when that's your best shot.
Journalism, I read some of that, and it was but did it go something like he gets a lot of
one player who's been dubbed, perhaps unfairly, as injury-prone, in inverted commas, is Mason Bennett. And he basically says in reply, to be honest, the last couple of years have been all right for me, especially being available for so many games. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't kept track of his injury. I've got a diary or anything out there, listeners, but he does seem to be injured a lot. But is that an unfair fan opinion, Neil? I don't know.
Well, I think it didn't help that initially he'd only played 90 minutes handful of times in the whole of his career, isn't he?
He doesn't seem to do the full 90, no. And he seems to come off, if he starts, he comes off about 70, doesn't he? Something like that. I like him. I think he's a good, powerful, dangerous player, but he just does have, fairly or unfairly, this kind of fragility tag that's attached to him.
But is it unfair? I don't know. I don't think we think he's a Darren Anderson, but we know that. I
think when he's available, he'll give you 100%. He's not one that just haunts the sick room, as Anderson, great example. I like him. I like Mason.
Achtung, Millwall.
London News Online interview again, another kind of filler piece. Jake saying we need to build a clean sheet mentality, which does mean that you got to stay cohesive in defence, unlike what we saw in that first half. But we've all moved on last week from the Sheffield United performance.
Being non-cohesive, wasn't it? It was like you and me out there, and we'd never met before. yeah, but it was just silly. It was silly suicide passes that undid it there. I think
Absolutely. I think we might have had a bit more pace, especially on for that second goal about us. But anyway,
yeah, I'm not like that.
Some other good news. I don't know if we've mentioned this. Might have mentioned it previously. Tyler Bury agrees a new deal. That might be an old story. Stats. This is fascinating. It's one of the things that struck me in that Arsenal documentary, Neil, was they've about 5 or 6 people monitoring them medically and statistically, and every I can't imagine we can compete on that front. But there's a little piece here. This is on the News at Den with Gary Rowett. Says he uses stats and data in his build up to games, but they have their limitations. I mean, the modern generation, there's lots of stats freaks out there. I don't know what the kids now do. I used to be, I don't know, more teenage pursuits, but now they seem to spend their time looking at numbers. I suppose it's the football manager syndrome, isn't it? Everything's number based.
Yeah, I know that they can derive a great deal from looking at this, that, and the other, and I know they can tailor rest periods and all kinds of stuff that I'm not really interested in, to be honest. Yeah, well, I just worry about us putting the ball in the back of the net and keeping it out of our net at the end of the day. It's a very, very simple game.
Simple stat, that's right. I mean, this is about expected goals, XG. And Gary Rabbit's talking about that as
a whole lot of shit, to be honest.
I mean, this. I love this bit. For Saturday's 2-0 defeat at Sheffield United, Millwall registered an XG ratio of 1.17. What that means, I've got a clue. But anyway, that means they would have been expected to score once based on the chances they had. Okay.
That to me is the biggest load of nonsense I've ever heard in my life. And nonsense being a journalist, most of it I've actually written, but yeah, my eyes glaze over at things like that.
Yeah, I mine do, but then I suppose we've not been brought up in the screen generation where all of these games, these online games, are based around that kind of number, grid number kind of approach. Some take it very, very seriously. I'm sure we're going to get some angry comment for taking the piss out of XG ratios.
Wants to come on here and tell us and convince us that this GD or whatever nonsense it's called actually has some standing. Yeah, you take the chances because your striker can finish them, or your midfielder can finish them, or your defender can get up. There's nothing stats based about it. It's just the luck of the draw, isn't it? It
seems to be the more chances you get, the more you should expect to score them. Well, yeah, that's right. I think one of the first things you learn when you follow football.
I don't need to be a 50 grand a year analyst to tell you that the more chances you put in the box, the more time you put the ball into the box, the more goals you're going to score. No shit, Sherlock.
It's this Americanization of the sport, which is obviously statistics dominated out there. I always think, what would Brian Clough have said of it? And I think I can think of his short answer. Neil told him about XGs. Have been quite blunt and to the point.
Benny Fenton or Charlie Hewitt have thought of it.
They've been dismissive. They would have been dismissive. There we are.
I'm sure that in this science-based stats world that football now lives in, that this holds a lot of credibility. But to be honest, Gary, I'll give you some free advice. Just put the ball in the box more often.
Let the XG worry about itself.
Yeah, don't worry about the XG. Just put the ball into the bloody box more often. There's a good chance we're going to score more goals. Can I have a job as an analyst or a coach?
Why not? There doesn't seem to be any qualifications needed other than an ability to manoeuvre your way around often football manager programs or similar. Final Millwall story on my little list here. Neil, they got their new training wear out. Again, this seems to have been a big thing for people online. The training shirts. There's actually quite a nice shirt. It's a blue shirt. It's got an imprint of I think the West India Docks on it. People collect these things. People like to buy them and wear them. And it's now on sale on the club's official website whole range of black and red and yellow wear and the blue ones. So
I actually saw a picture of this training top, and I actually like it better than the
shirt. Yeah,
I think it's got some, but I don't know. I'm not into buying all of this stuff, and I think it's vastly overpriced anyway.
It's certainly overpriced. I would agree with that. But I mean, that's there's nothing. I mean, some of the prices for the top clubs, their shirts, stupid. But if people pay it, I suppose that's the principle of the market.
Around dressed like Christmas trees, don't they? To prove that they support Millwall, and
yeah,
I think their entire wardrobe is Millwall stuff. If they're a member.
It should depend on whether it's comfortable to wear. I mean, they always look slightly uncomfortable to wear and a bit hot. What do I know?
Achtung, Millwall.
Moving along away from Millwall now, we've always tried and pick out a couple of stories to chew over. As two traditionalists, I think it's fair to say, sporting traditionalists, not I hope not mindlessly traditionalised, but certainly I think we should value the places and the formats from where our major sports have come from. And this story caught my eye. It's one from Henry Winter, I think is the Times writer, talking about the ending on BBC of the reading of the classified football results on Sports Report. For reasons best known to the BBC, in my opinion, Five Live Sport and BBC 5 Live are going to scrap this service. I don't know if that means the TV won't feature it. But anyways, there's a move towards scrapping of the reading of the classified results. Seems such a shame. I don't know what the viewing figures are like, but it seems to be one of those public services, Neil, that the BBC ought to provide. That's what it's for. That's its purpose for me. How do you see it?
Hold on. We've got some breaking news.
Go
on. It would seem as if the club have announced the signing of Bermondsey Beckenbauer as we are recording this.
Vogelsammer, how about that? This is why you tune into this show. It's official, the Vogelsammer.
Yeah,
I wonder.
Funnily enough, I got a message through on WhatsApp.
Yep.
And I've just had a very quick look on Twitter. And Guten Morgen.
Good morning. Which means good morning.
Yeah. Yeah, well, remember that from funnily enough, I've got a German name. We're a German cookware company, Fissler. He looks a bit ginger to me.
That'll go down well.
But we've actually signed the Bermondsey Beckenbauer.
Generally speaking, ginger players are always welcome in the mill. So they're generally Irish and they generally want to have a fight with people. So that's good. That's a good start.
Yeah, but he'll probably want to invade somewhere being German.
Oh, dear. I was trying to raise the tone of the conversation. That's good news, listeners. That's good news. So Vogelsammer arrives live whilst we're recording this show. How about that? So, yeah, sports. Anyway, back to the classifieds, Neil. It just seems like one of those knocks to tradition that doesn't seem to gain us anything, in my opinion, but detracts from, I don't know, the wider love of the sport in a way that's quite hard to define, but I feel it nevertheless. How do you see that story?
Oh, do you know what? I'm not one for cancel culture and whatever else, but yeah, I am a traditionalist, but it just seems to be a very short-sighted move by the BBC. It's just the fun enough. Yeah, when this story broke earlier in the week, I went onto YouTube and I listened to Out of the Blue, which is the sports report thing, and it just conjures up memories of when you had a transistor radio as a youngster, and in your younger days, or you'd get into the car after a game and
you'd listen to the results. That's right.
Know the results, the scores, because you didn't have smartphones.
And woe betide you if you missed it, because you might have to wait till Sunday morning to find out what the score was.
Well, exactly. And the big match and that, they showed the games, but they didn't give the results. And it just seems to me that the BBC, they're trying to move away. They're trying to attract an audience that they haven't got and that they won't attract. That's the younger audience, but they're ignoring. I saw the RNIB, the Royal National
The
Institute.
blind, yeah.
They said that this is often a lifeline for blind people.
Absolutely.
There are older people that haven't got smartphones, and whatever else, and people do live in smartphone black spots where you can't get it, so they do rely on the football results.
Yeah, it's part of the joy of life, Neil. I mean,
it is. And for 2 minutes, it's something. I think a friend of mine, Paul Hayward, who was chief sports writer of the Telegraph, pointed out that it's something that links the whole of the football pyramid.
Yeah,
you're equal. You're on sports reports.
Yeah,
and I thought they gave it out for the pools alone, because I think for the pools you have to phone up and you have to claim, don't you? And
you do. It seems such a petty move. I mean, whether they'll stick to it. There was a story in the
they're saying
it was in the Metro paper I saw yesterday that the BBC are adamant that this is the way it's going to be. They're not going to do it. It seems so petty to me, because what you're gaining, how long does it last? Does it last 2 minutes? Maybe it lasts 3 minutes. Let's go for that, with the reading of the football scores. And what are you going to fill it up with then? Some Strictly Come Dancing gets extra 3 minutes, or I don't know.
Bland yeah, but they're saying that because games kick off at 5:30, that they have to devote preview time, and
so you get more Alex Scott, 3 minutes of Alex Scott, and I don't know who else is on their show now, but Lineker maybe, I don't know.
Stuff they don't know about. Yeah, it's just something that okay, I don't listen to it because I don't listen to the radio very often. But it's something that
if you're in your car, no one listens to the radio all the time. You listen to it in certain specific situations. Generally, if you're driving or, I don't know, walking, running, whatever you might be doing, you could be in. And it's the BBC's output, Neil, should not be about numbers. It should have some higher. I'm going to sound right ponce now, listeners, but it should have some higher purpose than that. And the football reading of the football scores a little bit like they used to have a thing where you had to show certain major sports events on the BBC, like the Cup final and Test match cricket. All gone now. It's this thing of knowing the price of everything and the value of nothing, isn't it? I went to veering around a bit. I went to cricket last Sunday. Went to a 50 over game at Beckenham. Probably a fairly small scale event compared with this run fest called the 100 that's doing on the major channels. And I get that those are filling up stadiums. They're chasing an audience, as you've said already, Neil, a younger audience. But there was something beautiful about a Sunday afternoon on a beautiful day, small scale ground at Beckenham. There'd be loads of these around across the country. People had picnics there. The audience was predominantly my age listeners. I mean, let's be honest with it. I mean, it was not a young audience, if you want to put it that way. There were kids there, usually with parents, but it was just something beautiful about it, Neil. It felt like you're linked with the past in some way. And it sounds a bit poncy when you say this, but I think this is what Henry Winter's driving at here, that the decision to scrap the service shows a lack of understanding of fans. It's about continuity, the pyramid, and information. It's that linkage with the past, and you get rid of that at your peril, in my opinion. Otherwise, what are we? We're just advertising boards for KP nuts or peanut. I don't know. It's just sort of commercial enterprises.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I got my son tickets for London Spirit. A mate of mine is media manager of the Manchester Original Swanee, and he said that it was just yeah, well, he went with his mate who'd finished work there or has finished his dissertation or something, and they just had a couple of beers, watched the cricket, and it's very much tailored towards the family, and that's a good thing because it gets people involved in sport. Look,
Absolutely.
yeah, the women's football isn't my thing, but it's getting people engaged. It's bringing people in. It might be that, yeah, well, I know it's highly unlikely, but you might get somebody who's watched a women's game, lives near Millwall.
Well, that's how it works, isn't it? I mean, people think I'll have a go at that, you know. The same with the cricket, I think. I mean, David Lloyd Bumble was on Twitter, and he made a point to someone who was slagging the 100, like a traditionalist, and he was making a point where the stadiums are full up. When you can't argue with that, because in the end, a cricket, county cricket, or whatever these franchised, combinations are, they're businesses, Neil. They do need to make money, so you need to fill up your stadium. And there's many arguments why shorter form cricket will succeed, and that does break with the tradition, which is the point of this particular item. But you don't jettison your traditions as well as I don't think you should. You're throwing out something valuable.
Exactly. Yeah. Well. Yeah, they do price it at £30-40 for the family, which is a great thing. Somebody said to me on Twitter when I said it looks as if there's a lot of families in these grounds. Oh yeah, they're all freebies. Yeah, but they're not.
No.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, well, it isn't for me. I've watched a fair few games actually on TV this year.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's a format that if you had a young family and you wanted to go along, you can see why they're engaged by it. I'll watch it purely because I love cricket, and it's either that or watching Hull City in the Carabao Cup, isn't it?
Which is where I found myself.
You found yourself the other day, and
or all or nothing, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. It's just getting people engaged in sport, and to drop the football classified sports report, it's just a little bit of tradition that they're trying to do away with, and they think it's for the better. But surely, if it was for the better, there wouldn't be the outcry that there's been, and it just seems that they're digging their heels in almost like Millwall style.
Yeah, it's a story that's unfolding, listeners. I did see in the Metro paper yesterday that the BBC are digging their heels in, as Neil said. Whether the pressure will remain to keep it in, whether they'll buckle, I don't know. It's
program, isn't it? Yeah. We've spoken about the Millwall program being scrapped, and to be honest, the new program that started from Chris Bethel and friends. Sorry, but I don't know who else is involved. Graham Sargent, I think, is involved, and Chris and Lucy Pepper. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn by naming people that I've heard are involved with it. But that seems to have caught people's imagination, and it's maintaining that link, isn't it? It's maintaining that link.
It's a link with the past. It is valuable. I believe it's valuable. I believe other people should believe it's valuable too. Some do, some don't. I think you're right. It's destructive for no great gain. It's that part that bothers me. I mean, if you can't be wedded to the past because if you're gaining something new that's better, then that's great. But the abolition of the reading of the football results, the doing away that you see so much of now with programs, when there are other options. You can reduce the program down to an 8-page. There's things that you could do. You don't have to be. You can get the cost. And like exactly what Chris is doing now with this new alternative matchday program, which is costing £1. I think he could probably charge a bit more than that. I think he should be charging £2 personally, but I'm not going to advise Chris on what to do. And I think if you produce something that is is good, but doesn't have the same production costs and therefore isn't a loss to the club, why not continue what you're gaining by doing away with it? Really, I think you're only losing in the end. But There we are. We'll follow that story because it's just an interesting. It's like a small story, Neil, but it illustrates something bigger that's going on in football generally, doesn't it?
Yeah, and society generally. No,
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just a shame. R.I.P. the football results.
Yeah.
Report.
For what? I suppose you could look at your phone now. Maybe that's there. I don't know. I think we'll call it quits there, Neil. I think we've probably covered a nice range of subjects there. Some great upbeat news with the signing of Andreas Vogelsammer. I'm going to love saying that name, and the renewal, we hope soon officially, of Danny McNamara.
Yeah, but I've been on Twitter for the last 30 seconds, so it might be that the club have that news by the time this. By the time that you managed to put this up, Nick, it's
absolutely. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
It's time to be alive for a Millwall fan.
Thank you to Neil Fissler taking time out of his Friday morning. Thank you, mate.
Yeah, superb, Nick. I really enjoy these shows, and I hope that people enjoy listening to us witter on about nothing. And let's hope for 3 points from Coventry, who have sold 1,900 tickets for tomorrow.
Yeah, lower tier, I believe. There's going to be some train disruption tomorrow, listeners. Another train strike, so do check your website of choice to make sure that your method of getting to the den is available. Until next week, from Neil and myself, it's Arrivederci Millwall. Thank you for listening, dear listeners. Bye for now. No One Likes Us Clothing is the clothing range designed by Millwall fans for Millwall fans. Caps, t-shirts, polos, they've got it all. Visit noonelikesus.co.uk for the full range. Or if you're in Bermondsey on a match day, why not have a pint in the Blue Anchor pub and pick up a Nolu polo shirt, Nolu clothing at www.noonelikesus.co.uk.